Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 97 of the Noclip Podcast. We're coming up on 100. They said they wouldn't do it. They said they're bringing back the podcast. They're just going to stop doing it again after 3 weeks. I can see it's going to happen. But here we are, folks. You doubted us. We're here. Episode 97. We're going to talk about Signalis. Frank's going to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, which is a sentence I could have also easily said in 2010, I think. Life is cyclical, the world is forever, and Jeremy Jane is here. How you doing, Jeremy?
I am wonderful. I played one of my favorite games of the year, of several years, of the decade, of my whole life. Oh, you played
Clive Barker's Undying?
Yeah, how'd you know, dude? So we're gonna get into that. But yeah, I'm fucking. Whenever you consume a piece of art that really shakes you to your core, it's like I feel like that afterglow lasts for a few days.
Oh man, I guess you liked Signalis. Who knew that the guy who's been talking about replaying all the Silent Hill games might vibe off of this this indie gem? Frank Howley, how you doing, my friend? When was the last time you were in the fog?
Oh man.
Did I defeat him? Did I defeat him?
Yeah,
Did I give him a segue he can't come back
well,
from?
no, I mean, last... Well, when I'm playing Call of Duty, I'm always faded and in the fog. Like, that's the best way to play Call of Duty.
There you go.
Hell yeah, brother.
There, he slagged out for a second, folks. That's all it was.
It's because he's still high from last night.
Yeah.
Dude.
You got to move up to NorCal. You'll have 1,000,001 fog stories to tell.
Oh, man.
Nevada gets real foggy. I've realized that. It's really fun. Sometimes my kid wakes up and is like, not sure if she can come in to us in the morning because it's so dark outside, like with the fog. She's like, it's still nighttime, and she's like super pissed about it. And then she has this little technology for kids these days is nuts. We have this little like lamp. It's just like a nightlight in her room, but it like turns blue at the time she's like allowed to get up and get out of her room and like be awake. So she just sits there staring at this light. It's like before the light existed, kids, didn't have to worry about it. Maybe they were tormented because they didn't know what time it was, but also it basically makes sure that I never get a lie-in because the light comes on. So like clockwork, 7:30, that kid's up out of bed and going like, "Come on, Dad, make me waffles."
The light is on. We're on hours now. The kitchen is
exactly.
open.
Yeah, it's like the on-air light of our family is like the minute that thing pops on. Signalis. Are we just going to jump into it? Let's first of all, let me do a shout out to all our amazing Battle Pass holders. Thanks to all the folks who are patrons this month. This is the month where a lot of people go annual, so we got a couple of more of the annual folks ticked over again. If you want to support our work and get access to this month's free podcast and loads of other stuff, head over to patreon.com/noclip and consider annual. You get a big old discount on annual too. And we're giving out Stunt Derby keys to every patron, everyone who's $5 and up, which is basically every tier we have. So I'm going to be rolling that out in the next couple of days. I think by the time this goes up, that should be available. Enjoy. Come to our playtest. Our playtests are getting wacky. We're getting like 20, 30 people in every playtest now, and it's starting to turn into a real physics orgy. But thank you to all of our Battle Pass holders, including our new one. Thank you to Jason Drury, Cody Krieger, Sven Huster. What? How do you do the umlauts or whatever that is with those dots? Is it Huster?
In my limited German experience, it's like
ooh. They could be Swedish though. It's Sven. Gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Oh no, is Swedish German? Swedish Sven.
Well, I'm
Swedish
saying
Let's just say Swedish German. Is Sven?
Sven's
got to take off his patronage now because of this conversation we're having.
No. I was not asserting that Sven was German. I was merely saying that.
Sorry.
Okay, I have parallel experience that may lead me to solve like a cipher. We're solving other languages.
You just can't get out of ciphers. Get a Signalis on the brain. This guy.
I have a notebook full of ciphers right now.
I have an iPhone full of photographs of the screen of my Steam
yes.
Deck. Sven, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, please let me know. Sven Huster, let's say. Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fagrin, Cameron Ladd, George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, and Tohir Tilyav. Cameron was in the production meeting this week, so I had requests to answer his questions and say his name frequently. So we got a couple of live camera lads in there. If you're on the production team tier, you can watch that VOD as well, by the way. You don't have to turn up to the meetings live. You can just watch them after the fact. I don't want to rattle on about Patreon stuff too much because it sounds like I'm selling, but there was one really good idea that came from this our last month's production meeting, which was for the next episode of Greatest Hits, because we did Black and White and because Legacy of Kain is kind of iced. I was telling them about it because we just can't get enough people. I have managed this week. We have one person for the Crystal Doc, so I'm going to keep working away on it. But the next episode we're going to do another vote for it. Somebody said we should pick it should be a losers bracket. So we pick the top 2 losers from the other 4 and have them go at it because
that's a good idea.
Because it's because the problem is some of these are destined to never win. Unreal Tournament's destined to not win. Simpsons Hit and Run, Age of Empires. Whereas we put them all against each other, then maybe one of them might actually creep on in. What do you think?
Yeah, love it. Great
it.
idea.
Yeah, it's like a celebration of the first year or 2 years of Greatest Hits.
I think it was. When did we start? I think it was last year. It was summer of last year, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be episode 5. So it feels good. First half of the 10 or whatever. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that if you're a production tier patron. All right, anyway, enough housekeeping and selling. Let's talk about Signalis. This is a video game that is available on steamworks.com. Maybe you've heard of it. steampowered.com. What else is this on? Does anyone have this on anything else?
Xbox.
It's on a bunch of different platforms. Yeah, it's on Game Pass. For the Howleyites out there. I think it might be.
It's on everything I see here. Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Series X, Series X, Microsoft Windows, and of course Steam Deck. If you're like me, it does run on Steam Deck very well, which is good. Coming out from a developer called Rose Engine. Rose Engine, never heard of them before. This is a real thing. Who wants to explain the genre first of all before we get into the details? What does this game look like and play like, Jeremy?
Okay, so I loved this game. First of all, let me just say that this game is fucking fantastic. If you have even a passing interest in survival horror, especially retro survival horror, like the early Resident Evil games, pre Resident Evil 4, most of the Silent Hill games, you should play this game because it is essentially a hybrid of the retro Silent Hill and the retro Resident Evil games. It is dripping with homage, but it is unflinching homage. It's not winking and nodding and going, I remember this. It's just constantly reminding you of some of the best survival horror games ever, but doing it in its own way. But in terms of how it plays, yeah, it's basically one of the top 3 Silent Hill games ever made.
Okay, let me just break it in visually for people then. It is basically, I would liken it more, maybe it's more like Silent Hill. I would liken it more to something like Metal Gear or even Metal Gear Solid, but the original Metal Gear what was that platform they were on? The Microsoft, I forget what the name of that thing was. MSX,
yeah.
MSX Metal Gear games maybe, where it's floating camera, not fixed, but looking down, kind of like what Metal Gear Solid looks like in some levels, because not all levels. Yeah. It's a bit different in MGS. Whereas I think Silent Hill uses a 3D camera, right?
So in presentation style, it definitely is.
So in terms of it has that sort of PlayStation style. I don't know if it's dithering or whatever it is, that type of thing. It's set in a sort of techno noir world that has anime sort of aesthetics in some of the little cutscenes and stuff. It's very artfully done in terms of the presentation. There's lots of cinematic style cuts and things like that. But for the most part, you're exploring corridors and abandoned areas, mines, things like that, solving puzzles, collecting keys, and basically trying to survive against sort of zombie-like antagonists, but obviously in a more sort of sci-fi type of way. And now I'm saying sort of Metal Gear and all that sort of stuff because that's how it looks like aesthetically to me, and also because hand on heart, I have not really played much Silent Hill, so I'm not the sort of wrong. I'm not the person who's going to make that connection. So I'm interested in what you have to say about that, Jeremy, especially because you've just been replaying all of the early Silent Hill games, and also playing a bunch of kind of games like this, like Iron Lung you were talking about. Like this is, I feel like it's in that same vein of like this is very much an indie game. It's not like, you know, it's not got crazy high production values, but it's like super tight and like, you know, quite cool. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Like how's it playing for you? Why do you like it? And where's the Silent Hill-ness in here?
Yeah, so you're totally right that in terms of the camera angle presentation style, it is straight on, kind of top down at a slight angle. So it actually, in terms of the angle, it looks more like kind of a classic RPG or something. But in terms of the core gameplay loops of conserving ammo, solving puzzles, exploring, mapping out corridors, kind of plotting out runs. So you have a limited inventory size, like a lot of classic survival horror. So a lot of it is knowing, okay, well, I need excuse me, I need this key, and this puzzle item. So that means I can carry one health pack, one gun, and a box of ammo. And so it's about balancing these things. So what I really enjoy about survival horror is that it's essentially about creating kind of a mental map of spaces, like an experiential map. And so as you get to a new environment, you're kind of in the dark about it. And the process of exploring it and figuring out, okay, that's that hallway that has a bunch of dudes in it. I cannot waste enough ammo to kill all those guys. So I basically need to go through there as little as possible. And I think the most effective survival horror games are ones that give you they create a sense of dread about a place, and then they force you to move ever closer to it. And so it's this constant feeling of understanding a place, but knowing that you don't have enough ammo and health packs to purge it completely of enemies. And also, you know, without getting too much into the weeds on it, they're killing enemies is not always fucking final. So this, like, purging the entire game of enemies is an impossibility. And so it's more about figuring out things in a timely manner, plotting your runs, being smart, being economical. But the thing that reminds me the most about Silent Hill, other than there are some overt nods. So if you've played Silent Hill 2 recently, this game is such a delight because it is constantly doing things where it's like, remember when Silent Hill did something kind of like this? And it's so fucking good. But it doesn't feel derivative at all. It feels like, to call it like a love letter to survival horror, I feel like is underselling Signalis because it is so strongly its own thing. But in terms of sort of the dreamlike storytelling, the sort of ambiguity of what's going on, the emotionally charged character-driven narrative, the types of puzzles, the types of combat, the feel of going down these corridors full of enemies who are reaching at you and kind of like you can dodge them but just barely, and sometimes you don't make it. It really does feel like a Silent Hill game in every way except for the camera angle.
How I've played maybe, I think I might like 2.5 hours, maybe something like that. How about you, Jeremy? What have you done?
I completed the game last night. It took me 10 hours ish.
Wow, all right. There's a lot of game there.
It is, and then I probably spent an hour or two comparing notes with another Signalis appreciator, because there is so much to unpack. If you play this game, take your time and be very curious and just kind of try to drink in all of the narrative information you can and take notes. You can always go back and reread notes like any good survival horror. There's like all your memos that has everything you found, but pay the fuck attention. There's not a wasted word.
Frank, how much of this have you played? I saw it was on your notes, but kind of after Call of Duty. So when you were done sort of like shooting teenagers on the internet, did you get to play much of this?
Yeah. It's so funny because and we'll get into it deeper later, but it's like Call of Duty is so twitchy that it's so hard for me right now to play any game that's slower than Call of Duty. But I played like 2 little batches of it, so I would say I'm like an hour in, but I'm finally at the part like I have weapons and stuff, and like I'm understanding the pace of the game, and it feels just like Resident Evil where this door is locked, better find this key. The game does a good job of letting you know this door is locked, you might need this item. And so then like what I like that telegraphs it, even Resident Evil 2 is like you need the heart-shaped key, etc. So I played like an hour, but just enough now where I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. One little detail, I just got these like electric shock defense grenades.
Oh yeah.
So you can just tap the left bumper
Stun
and
rods
just
or whatever they are.
Yeah. And then also like Dead Space, you can stomp on them when they're down. And then as Jeremy was saying, all of the notes are like that was always my favorite thing in the original Resident Evil games, were all the notes, because they're so like funny and cryptic. There was one where it's like someone who worked on the facility is like, I can't find my way back to the base camp. I had to spend a cycle sleeping in the hallway. I can't find anywhere without this map.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
like,
that was one of the, because there are like people and androids in this world, and I think that was an android that's like map module was broken, and they were waiting for a replacement, and they were like, I couldn't find my way to the kitchen.
Oh, it's yeah, and there, yeah. So like, I'm really digging it, and aesthetically, that's what hooked me. Is like, oh, it's so anime, but you play it, it feels like Resident Evil, and then the camera work looks like Metal Gear Solid. So yeah, this is like feels like such a love letter to the PlayStation generation of games. There doesn't have the annoying load times with the doors. Like it'll be a quick like dip to black and then you're in the next room. But I'm really excited to sit down and play this.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not like an anime fan, so whenever I see anything anime, it actually like turns me off a little bit. And it's funny because I've been, we're doing the video for the second Stunt Derby video over on Noclip Crew about like putting together a Steam page, and I had seen this game and seen people hype about it and like seen the key art and stuff, and it actually like turned me away a bit because I'm like, I don't play anime ass games. And while the like, I guess you'd call them cutscenes, but like the animations or whatever, the cinematic moments in this game, they depict the character in that sort of style. It's not like neo-futuristic sort of like anime eyes kind of style. The actual gameplay itself is not anime in any way. It's not that. It doesn't have the like freneticism of anime, and it also doesn't look anime either, but it just does in those sort of like vignettes, I guess. And I think like there's something to be just in general, the presentation in this game is so sharp. Like the menu, the inventory stuff has that like real crunchy, like old like small CRTs like you had in 80s sci-fi, and the sound of a hard drive crunching, like there's so much of that like going on behind the scenes. The like sort of Pip-Boy style flicker, everything is and the menu stuff is like, it's easy to get to as well. Like you just become second nature, swapping out stuff, reloading, doing all that sort of stuff. But the thing that I've enjoyed the most is the puzzles. I think, I've only played 2.5 hours, but I've already come up against like a bunch of, every time I come up to a puzzle, I'm like, oh, this is neat. Like one of them is the sort of, you have to like fill the 3 jugs of water type of one, but they kind of give you an interesting bit of information that helps you along with that. There's another one where you have to like mess with the like cool down a generator in like a safe way, and there's like a sine wave of how you want it to cool down, and you have to like tweak things to make it hit that sine wave. And it's all like, there's lots of new ideas, and I feel like it presents I've never been stuck. Like it presents its world and the puzzles and kind of where you're supposed to go, and like what doors are locked because they're locked and what doors are locked because you haven't gotten the key yet. All that sort of stuff. It's very like good at communicating a lot of things in a way that didn't have me like second guessing them.
Yeah, 100%. The puzzles in this game are like best in class. In fact, some of them are kind of references to old Resident Evil and Silent Hill games. Like I think Resident Evil 2 has the water level puzzle as well.
Yeah.
But there are some puzzles in this game. So one thing that it does is the Silent Hill thing of it'll give you a little bit of information about the world, and then you'll get a puzzle item that's not clearly connected to that puzzle, but it invites you to inspect the item in your inventory, to read the description of it, to turn it over in the item viewer and kind of gain more information about it. And I really like games that do that because it's inviting you to be curious about this world. Those items don't just become a little checkbox in your inventory where you're like, okay, now I have the key. Like as much as I love FromSoft games, there was something that Lilith brought up in the Bloodborne PSX doc, which was that when you get a key in a FromSoft game, you see the name and it's like the old rusty key of darkness, and you never think about it again. And then you open that door later and you're like, where the fuck did I get this key? Like it doesn't have any real meaning. All it tells you is that you're going to open a door at some point that you couldn't otherwise open. But in this, you get the key for, this is the key, bloodstained key, and then this is not a real puzzle. I'm not spoiling a puzzle. I'm making one up. And then you find like a padlock that's like covered in blood, and in your brain you have to go, oh, I have that key that's covered in blood. And I don't even want to talk about the details of one of the puzzles, but in the latter half of this game is a puzzle that made me feel so smart that it is probably the most brilliantly designed puzzle I've ever played in a video game in my entire life.
Excellent.
Bar none.
Yeah, that's the thing. I also like, I'm talking around a lot of like, there's a variety in the puzzles as well. Like some of them are visual, some of them are aural, some of them are about like the lore, like they poke towards like, and like you said, it just makes it all feel so tactile, like the different keys. You get to the point where you can almost guess where the keys are going to be based on the world. And I'm not like a type of person who reads a lot of like in-game lore. Like if I can skip one, I can, but they're very economical about the way they present it, to the point where you're kind of like, the way when you're playing like a game like, I don't know, let's say Skyrim, just for shits and giggles, right? That game is made for a lot of different types of people. So sometimes you come up to a note, and that note has some like really interesting information that's helpful for a quest. But a lot of the time there are people who just want to like read lore in the game. So they also have like 8 times more notes that are just about world building, right? Because they need to like fill the world with world building. Whereas I feel like this game obviously knows that, like, I don't know, it doesn't have those ones. It doesn't have like a lot of, this is just here so you can learn about this wacky world that we've made that you're probably confused about what's going on. Almost all of it seems to have some type of relevance, which means that whenever I get a note now, I'm excited to read it, because I'm like, oh, I wonder what it'll tell me. It might just tell me one little thing, and that like is helpful, but that I'll remember that and I'll come back to it later. And it just feels like I don't know how long this game was in development, but it feels like a game that was in development for a long time, and they were tightening the screws on all this stuff for a long time, because it just flows. And to hear that it goes on for 10 hours, that actually like makes me even more impressed about it.
Dude, it's like, it is so hard to talk around. This is a no spoiler.
We're gonna have to do a spoiler cast or something, are we?
No, yeah, I would love to, because I think it takes like, this is the kind of game like a Kubrick movie where it ends and you're like, I feel like I need to just sit with this for a day and just talk to people about this. And that's what I loved about the Silent. I mean, I keep mentioning Silent Hill, but this game is very clearly inspired by Silent Hill and constantly referencing it in clever ways. It is like, when I finished Silent Hill 1 and 2, immediately I needed to go watch theory videos about those games. I needed to talk to people about them.
Could you imagine if you completed them in like 1997? You're just sort of sitting there annoyed, or going up to every friend in the schoolyard and saying like, "Have you played it? Have you played it?"
Yeah, totally.
That's why I was always obsessed with like Game Facts or Newgrounds.
Right.
Like, I would go on message boards, but yeah, but with no video editing or screenshots for context. No, I would read strategy guides.
When I was like, God, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something, really young. After I played Ocarina of Time, there was a website that would it was talking about the like a conspiracy theory that you could get the Triforce in the game, and that it was like an item you could get at some point. And there was a website for it, like a fucking GeoCities website or whatever, with the Triforce spinning at the top in like a creepy black background with green text, and it would play the X-Files while you were on the page.
It's wild.
And it stuck with me because I remember I was like scared reading it. Like it felt terrifying to read it, like if it was some sort of forbidden knowledge. Right. And I think, I mean, one of my favorite Noclip docs we've ever done is the Rediscovering Mystery doc. And I think that there is I want to say a tendency in media, but I'm not trying to speak with too broad of strokes here. But I think that there is a temptation in creating a piece of art that is meant for a large audience to slide that slider from the mysterious towards the overt, because I think that when I mean, a lot of people watch Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey and they get to the end and they're like, the hell was that? What the fuck? What did I just watch? Like, I don't understand. What's the baby and shit? I don't know what this is. But I think that having the confidence to do a narrative that challenges people and that bears discussion, that like requires discussion on some level, I think is like, yeah, I don't know. It's a different type of experience. It leaves me with something, and it sticks with you in a way that a movie that's like totally open and shut doesn't, or something. It takes a certain type of confidence to do that, though.
Yeah. I also want to say that, like, when, at least in my 2.5 hour sort of moment in the game, I don't really know what's going on, but I also kind of don't need to, and also I'm enjoying the game even if I never do. So I don't know if they wrap a lot of stuff up. I'm sure they explain a lot of this sort of stuff, but there's a lot of like you said, dream within a dream kind of stuff going on here, where I'm not quite sure where, what's happening, where I am, what's real, what was before, what's after. That it's kind of that type of thing. Like, is it non-linear storytelling? Is it all just happening in a weird way? I don't really know. I'm not playing this game with the sort of requirement that I get a nice little, tied up storyline at the end. And so I think if the idea of like that type of story is like, I always worry about like the anime thing for me was a barrier that I sort of like put in front of myself. So if people have that feeling about narrative stuff where they want, they don't want something that's complicated or something where, from my perspective, I'm enjoying it regardless of whether or not there was a story or not here. I like the wonder of the world is pulling me through it. Like, definitely. There's lots of things I like about it. Like, oh, look, there's 2 elevators. Like, that's interesting. They have like elevators for, you know what I mean? So like the stuff, like you said, if I think about things, and the more I think, what I'm here's a question for you actually. The feeling I get of this game is the more I play it, the more I like it. Like, it's building upon, like, it's not just like 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 4-1, 4-1-2. That it's like almost like a layer cake, and every time I go higher, it adds more to the bottom as well. And I'm enjoying everything more the more I play it. The lore, it all makes sense, and it's all like together. And is that how you felt, and is that why it feels so good after 10 hours?
Yes, 100,000 billion %. This is a game that every step you take forward recontextualizes every previous step in a way that the entire, like, I think the layer cake is the perfect analogy. You're like building an understanding of this world that ripples outward to everything you have done in it. It's just, and I think that is an important caveat you made, that I don't think you need to enjoy the kind of story that will destroy your brain or be like vague or weird or like psychedelic. I don't think you need to enjoy those types of stories to enjoy this game. I think it has like when I played Silent Hill 1, I missed so much. I read about Silent Hill 1 after, and there were moments where I was like, is this the same game? Like, did I play like a fucking different version of this game where I missed a ton of stuff? But the experience I had with Silent Hill 1 was largely driven by atmosphere, by character, by the experiences I was having, by the feeling of dread of walking into a fucking haunted school full of fog. Like that, I think you can enjoy this game on so many levels. But I am glad that it has that sort of transcendent, like, if you want to absorb all of the information in this game, the game will reward you for doing so.
I like the idea. I mean, it's just you're making me think about Resident Evil, because I've not played Silent Hill, right? So I'm going to Resident Evil, and like Resident Evil story is the stupidest thing ever, but it didn't, it didn't make me like the game less. You know what I mean? Like, so that kind of makes me feel this way too, where like I'm enjoying the narrative in this, but I don't think, kind of like any good PlayStation era survival horror game, it doesn't need the story to work as a game as well. I am enjoying it, and I'm glad that you sort of sounds like from what you're talking, it continues to work good in terms of the narrative. But yeah, I would say that it's probably a game that you could play and not really care about all that sort of stuff and still really enjoy it. Like, mechanically, it's a lot of fun. It's not a game I'm playing to fight. There are a lot of games I play to find out what happens, and that's not this. Any other thoughts? Sorry.
It's just no. It's just like, I think that what you said about Resident Evil rings true with me, because I am a huge lover of Resident Evil. In fact, I never played Silent Hill games as a young person. I played exclusively Resident Evil games. I played Silent Hill 1 and 2 for the very first time this year. And I adore them, and I think they're timeless and incredible. But what I think sets them apart from the Resident Evil games in my mind, as I think the Resident Evil games are sort of gamier. I think that there's not like a gamey meat, but like a video game where it's like you're going back, there's like enemies, you're doing a lot of killing, you're trying to be economical about your ammunition, things like that. Silent Hill to me feels much more like they're trying to do the David Lynch movie of video games. It is more about the experience. It's less about how many enemies you kill or how you kill them. There is an ammo conservation element to it. But the thing that I like about Silent Hill is that it is so unflinchingly committed to telling this bizarre, dark, surreal, cerebral narrative through atmosphere, through character, through cutscenes, through gameplay, through passive storytelling, through notes you find, through just like the weird, creepy textures on the wall. The entire world is conspiring to tell a story, and you may not get 100% of that story, but you will get enough of it to feel like, holy shit, Silent Hill is like, it's doing something. Whether you get 2% or 100%, you get that sense. And I think Resident Evil, for all of its strengths, I feel like is at its strongest when it does a similar thing. Like, bizarrely enough, I think the strongest bit of storytelling in maybe any Resident Evil game of them all is in the Resident Evil remake, when you go down into the depths and you get the Lisa Trevor lore. And Lisa Trevor is like, I mean, it's an old game now. This isn't spoilers. This is like a side thing that's optional. But Lisa Trevor is like a girl who wears her parents' skin, and she's like fucking chained up down in a well somewhere, basically like clanging around. And it is one of the most it's not in the original game, it is an addition to the Resident Evil remake, and it's not played with snark, it's not played with camp, it's not like a Evil Dead moment in Resident Evil where they're like, it's the T-virus and Wesker can like punch a car in half. It is just a moment of genuine, sincere commitment to telling a fucked up thing that happened and letting you know how fucked up it's going to be, and then being like, okay, now go down there and see what you've been reading about. And I think that Silent Hill does more of that. I think the lack of snark is what makes it strong, or the lack of like camp, even though I like camp as well. And I think Signalis' strength is that it is so committed to its narrative, to its like emotional beats, to its characters, and it never pulls back and does a wink and a nod. It never does like a Joss Whedon, Taika Waititi, like, oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? It's just constantly doubling down on its vision, and I just think it's like, and its vision is so strong that works for me, and I just think I don't know, it's an incredible piece of art. I think it's probably the best game of this year. It's the best game I've played in a very long time.
Oh shit, watch out, Elden Ring, Vampire Survivor, Signalis coming for you.
I'm dead set on that. Immortality and Elden Ring were probably my top two previous to this, and they're just blown away by my experience with this
We're going to have a fun conversation during the inaugural Noclip Game of the Year podcasts later this year. Signalis, available on Steam for $19.99. Available on the world of Frank Helley presents Game Pass for he's doing an X. If you're not watching the video, he's doing an X. Can we do the socket video? No, X-Pac? No, we're not gonna do that. Yeah,
too low. Yeah. It's below the webcam.
We need a GIF of Phil Spencer doing the D-Generation X crotch slap, so we can use that. It is available there for free. Overwhelmingly positive, 98% positive reviews on Steam. Just shy of 1,000 reviews. So maybe it's having a slow but steady interest. We'll have to wait and see. Definitely one recommended by Jeremy and by myself. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more next week. Signalis. All right, now for a kind of a bit of whiplash here. We're going to transition over to our annual conversation with Frank about all things skins online. We've enjoyed the Snoop Dogg skins. We've talked about all the various metaverse worlds of Call of Duty. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is out. People have been talking about the campaign, walking around Amsterdam. Looks very pretty. You've been playing the multiplayer. What is COD MW2's multiplayer all about, Frank? How are you enjoying it?
I really love this. So off the top, I will say this is way better than Vanguard. Vanguard was really disappointing. It was back to World War II at its launch. It was mushy. It never felt good, and all my friends bounced off. I don't know if they ever patched and fixed it. The one thing Vanguard did get right was the Snoop Dogg skin. They later added Terminator stuff to it, but we pulled out of World War II. We were done. Modern Warfare 2, it's kind of back to basics. Boots on the ground, resetting, very like contemporary and neutral. Cold War was very hyper 80s neon, and I loved Cold War. But Modern Warfare 2 has a lot of contemporary settings. It feels really, really good to play. The big game changer with Call of Duty this year is they have a third-person mode.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Single player or multiplayer or both?
Multiplayer.
Okay.
I don't even know if it's single player. I've never touched like a single player campaign in Call of Duty. But no, it's called Third Person Mosh Pit, and I think 90% of our matches has been exclusively that. and it kind of feels like you're playing Fortnite without any of the building because it's third-person shooting. So my friends and I are completely destroying every single match we're in because we all have like thousands of hours in Fortnite. So we're going in, destroying everyone third person. With third person Call of Duty, you can kind of peek over corners way easier. You can like turn around, you see people sneaking up behind you. And it's also just really funny seeing because people in Call of Duty run so fast, so your character's animation is like it's like Looney Tunes running.
Do you remember the Dead Island thing? Do you remember somebody hacked the camera in Dead Island so it was third person, and Dead Island used like the actual hand animations were the hand animations you saw on the camera. So it just was this person like leaning backwards, like swinging their hands, like as if they had a GoPro strapped to their chest and they were pretending to be in a video game. So it's not quite that level, but it's still pretty Benny Hill, sounds like.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and then the levels are pretty rad. There's one level that straight up feels like Hitman's
Miami
race event.
Yeah.
So you're on at a race event. I'm trying to think of some other maps that stand out. There's like general war stuff, but
some general war.
Desert battlegrounds.
You got
whatever,
your desert. You got your Somme. You got your Normandy beaches. We got your Antarctic warfare. We got your digital camo.
Yeah, the one thing that's kind of a bummer so far is like I think it only launches with like it feels like there's only like 10 maps. So I'm excited. I think they also announced eventually they'll have original Modern Warfare 2 maps coming in, which I can't wait because there's the airport terminal map from OG Modern Warfare 2, which is my favorite. Like
Nuketown 2 or whatever.
Classic.
But I will say just in terms, and also like opening weekend, there was a lot of connection issues. My friends and I, we all play on crossplay, and it's such a nightmare trying to get it to work. They put a patch out, and now I would say like 80% of the time we can get into a match easy. We still have to. I will say the UI is pretty messy. Like it is pretty confusing. Nothing is consistent. Like even where the items you're looking, sometimes it's at the bottom screen, sometimes at the top. Sometimes you have to click right, like R3 or L3 or L. Like it's the UI is very confusing. But once you're in a match, you can keep going. We're winning everything. Now it's very neutral at launch. There's no battle pass. There's like one cosmetic pack so you can get, but there's nothing goofy. No licensing. No weed skins or emblems to unlock yet, which is
come on,
right? So that's why I'm excited about the third person mode is because once you'll be able to actually see the cosmetics you pay $20 for.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, it feels really good to play, and it's like every single day I'm just jonesing to play more, and it's been. And then I like Call of Duty because it's a way for like. Because it is crossplay, it is a throwback to like the high school days of Xbox Live. Like every year, my group, like all my friends, we always get it, and it's just so fun, just kicking back, laughing, like. Oh, one thing that this game added is hot mics. So when you kill somebody, the proximity microphones are on. So one thing I've enjoyed doing is doing knives only, and I just run up and stab people, and I'll have people screaming like, "Oh, what the hell? This person's stabbing people!" like, and then their mic cuts off as if it's their last breath, and it's like,
oh, that's funny.
It's just I don't know. Call of Duty is insanity. I will say generally like. I don't know, like you don't run into that much like toxicity. Every now and then you'll get people screaming, but it's like it seems calmed down. I'm not in the massive ground war like 40-on-40 matches. Right. I can't imagine what that's like. There is a battlefield mode in this they call ground war, but you can only squad up with 4 players, whereas the default team modes is like 6. I don't know why that is. Maybe they want to keep people in the battlefield mode, but for me, the third person mosh pit playing Call of Duty in third person is so fun. It's fast. It feels tight. I'm excited to see as they add maps. Add cosmetics, but the multiplayer is good and it has a much smoother launch than Vanguard. I didn't touch Cold War at launch. Cold War was phenomenal by the time I got to it, like a year after with all the maps and stuff. But I would say it's really good. I really like it.
I have a question about how you're doing the crossplay because I was on Steam. I don't just go to. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I just go to Steam sometimes just to see what's going on. I'm lazy like that. There seems to be like mixed reviews because the game's crashing a lot on PC. Maybe.
Yeah.
So have you heard much of that? I'm assuming you're playing on Xbox, and then who else are you playing with? I guess what are they playing on?
Yeah. So I would say like a lot of friends are on Xbox, a lot of friends are PlayStation. The ones who constantly crash, it is my PC friends. Okay. Like they'll try to join up with us and like, sorry, my game crashed. So they'll have to just reboot the game. But thankfully you can join if your friends are in a party, you can just join them mid-match. But my PC friends are getting lots of crashes. Okay. There was some bug where if you had like a certain weapon attack, there's like a thing where once you like max out a weapon, you can customize it even further, and like that crashes PC stuff, so they had to remove that feature temporarily. So hopefully they patch the PC stuff, but that's why Xbox is my dedicated Call of Duty machine. So it works on that, and yeah, I haven't had any crashes on Xbox. Just if you're doing crossplay, sometimes the matchmaking is a little finicky, but then like usually what happens, I'll have to like quit out, and then that will shake it loose. My friends will start joining, and then I'll rejoin their party. But on Xbox, it's been very smooth.
Not a Game Pass thing, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah, there you go. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 again. Redux, we're back.
Their subtitle. They're still making it.
We're still making it. Even more modern than before.
Well, modern is a concept it's an ever moving target. So
is it though?
What was modern 10 years ago?
That's true.
Well,
I guess that's
well, you could talk about just modernity, and then that's a little bit more static. But I don't think they're necessarily like talking about warfare. I don't know, post-enlightenment or something.
Now it
Industrial Revolution.
It would be fun to have like a throwback like 1997 game called like Modem Warfare, where it's like you have to deal with like 56K connections or like dial-up air. I don't know.
What was your go-to Modem Warfare? I remember I used to play when I had like dial-up Quake 3 Rocket Arena, the mod, and I was pretty good at it when I played on American servers, and sort of years later I realized it was because my ping was like 380, so no one could hit me. So I was like, it was easier for me to sort of get the rub of the green on the bad lag there than it was for them to hit me, especially in Quake, because it's just like, you know, space maps, you got to rail people and splash damage and stuff like that. So yeah, what was your go-to?
Man, it's so funny. I never did any 56K gaming because it wasn't until I had like broadband in like '02. The earliest I would say would be like Counter-Strike Source, when we would try to join like European servers or like, because we would just try to find the weirdest custom maps, and it was always like some German server. So then like all my American friends, we would have insane high pings, and everyone's screaming in different languages.
Get out! You just have those servers that were like, if you were 100 ping, you'd get kicked automatically.
Auto kick.
Yeah, auto kicked.
And we faced that like a few years during COVID when we just we dove back into every online game with my friends just to keep us from going insane. There were still like on Counter-Strike Source, there were still like these break floor servers, which I loved, but they were all hosted. They were all hosted in Germany, so we would try to join them and we get auto kicked for ping, and it's like, one, we're the only people in the world even playing Counter-Strike right now. Just let us play. Who cares?
I forgot about break floor games. This is when there was. Could you explain it for people?
Yeah, so Break Floor is like my favorite was, I think it was CS Break Floor, which was a map where it was two teams spawn on two sides, and there's a giant brick wall in the middle, but you're spawned on all these like these cubes, and the idea is almost like Minecraft, you shoot down and then you have to tunnel around to get to the other side.
It's like glass, right? It was kind of
and there was glass floors, and so there were many ways you could play. One way my friends and I played back in high school is we'd all spawn by auto machine guns and immediately shoot everyone below. Like we would try to make our friends fall, and like we would usually get matches where we all just team killed before the other enemy team had a chance. But it was just so fun going berserk and just shooting everything. Like it was so much fun, and because like you're not only fighting the other team, you're also fighting gravity.
All right, let's go round. Jeremy, did you play much CS back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Okay. How about we'll do round robin? Okay, Frank's done his. Jeremy, you can go next, and we'll go around in circle and see if you can remember an obscure game mode or level or something from sort of classic Counter-Strike. We'll say 1.6 or Source. Anything goes.
Yeah.
You're next.
It was either
just do one.
CS
so we.
Rats.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
it's one. I just can't remember the prefix. It was either DE or CS Rats. It was the one where you were tiny in a giant kitchen. That I vaguely remember it looking like the Simpsons kitchen, but that might have just been my like childhood adult memory. But yeah, you were just like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids mode in a kitchen.
Yeah, I do remember that like every game had like a kitchen and a Simpsons map, so it all gets like muddled together.
Yeah, I feel like those were two separate maps that just like went together.
And the Simpsons maps were like never good because it was just like you walk up the stairs and then it's just like 4 rooms. There's no way out of the windows. There's no flow to any of these levels. Just stand outside.
Yeah, the Simpsons home was not designed as a CS map.
Matt Groening's level design.
I have to say surf maps. I loved surf maps. The weird sort of tapping into the side of this like diagonal sloping level to fly down to the bottom, and it was basically just like a way of like you weren't really shooting each other. It was just like who can get to the bottom. And that was it. It was like skateboarding.
Yes.
It was like taking a line in skateboarding where you just like, you go, and then if you get to the end, there's a door at the bottom and it transports you back to the top, where you die at the bottom and then it like you respawn at the top. So massive fan of surf maps. Love surf. Frank.
I love CS McDonald's. Like
hell yeah.
Any maps that are just recreation of real world locations is so funny. I always love seeing menus like in these maps. Like what year are they that they're planted?
Do you remember? Because it was like the animation with this that was done in CS McDonald's. It was like those little egg guys. People are now going to listen and going to be like, I know exactly what you're talking about. They all went like, do. They'll talk. Somebody in the comments let us know what this thing was. I forget what it was called. It was like little egg. It was just like a flash animation that somebody made.
Sure.
But yeah, they were like, and there's like a bit where a lowrider comes up and it's playing like Puff Daddy. It was so silly. Anyway, that's not. Yeah. Jeremy, you go. We'll keep going till we can't find any more.
Oh man, there was I can't remember the name of it, but there was a really good gun game map that was like those playgrounds that you go to as a kid that were kind of like a giant wood structure, with bridges and like monkey bars and shit. There was a giant kind of version of that was a gun game map, but I can't remember.
A gun game's a good one to talk about because that ended up becoming popular in Call of Duty. But yeah, gun game was like what, you start off with a knife and then you get a pistol and then you get.
You either start with the best weapon or the worst weapon, and you work your way through the order. Every time you get a kill with a gun, you proceed to the next best gun or next worst gun until you either have to get a kill with a knife or get a kill with like a fucking machine gun or rocket launcher or whatever.
All right, I'll take the knife and go Scout's Knives, one of the best maps in Counter-Strike. Yeah. The Scout sniper rifle, which was like the sort of the skillful sniper rifle, you'd spend a lot of time on maps where they would basically not let you use the AWP, which was the sort of one shot, even if you got shot in the toenail, you were dead. Whereas the Scout was a one shot if you got a headshot, so it felt like it was more sort of safe, I guess. So Scout's Knives was you could only use a Scout or you could use a knife, and it was a lot of fun shooting across that map. Not a very big map, shoot across that map at each other, and then suddenly there's someone in there with a knife killing everyone. Like shit. So yeah, shout out to Scout's Knives.
There's another one. Was it like FY Snow World, FY Ice, where it was just like this weird white like Arctic like base, and it was just like, very basic, but it was a very basic snow map. But I like that one.
Was that the one that was like a labyrinth, kind of like an ice labyrinth?
I'm trying to think. I feel like it was just like.
I do remember, and that was the one where people would try and pick the seal, the one where they wore white as well, because there was like a white counter-terrorist and terrorist. I think just that, even those like 4 different skins are so iconic. You know what I mean? Like,
I love it. I always like it would cause alarm, but in my head it would always be so cool to like get a cosplay group of that. But at the same time, you don't want to have cosplays of SWAT teams and terrorists. Yeah. But it would look cool.
Oh yeah, FY Ice World.
Yeah,
there's an article on Rock Paper Shotgun that this is what I was thinking of with the guy who created it. Yeah, look up FY Ice World. Rock Paper Shotgun if you're interested in the history. I don't know.
Fuck yourself. That's my first.
Fuck yourself, Ice World.
That's actually not a bad shout.
That's probably accurate.
Oh my god. Jeremy, you got any other ones?
Oh man, it's been a long time since I've thought about this. Yeah, I don't know. One of my favorite novelty, it was a standard map, but one of my favorite novelty approaches that just to like be infuriating was to play Dust 2 and just wait if you're on a terrorist side, just go to the wagon outside of the tunnels and just sit in the wagon with a MAC-10 and just wait for them to come through because they got impatient, and then you could wipe an entire team with like a $1,000 gun sitting in a wagon.
Oh, so good. I'm like hearing the voices in my head now.
Yeah.
Jump maps. Gotta love those jump maps. Same as surf in many ways. You just kind of, it's all about just like platforming, first person platforming, trying to get onto the next height. And Jeremy made a jump map in Valheim, which gave me those those vibes a couple months back on our streams. That was a lot of fun.
Oh man.
But yeah, jump maps were class. They were just, yeah, it was a lot of like the better you did, the more you had to lose. So it was a lot of like mom spaghetti, sweaty palms going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, those also came up in we have a video on Noclip Crew that Jesse, our podcast producer, just put up an interview with Ben Esposito, creator of Neon White, and they talk about jump maps in that as part of the inspiration,
which is
for
very
it. So
cool. I didn't put two and two together until I saw that in his edit.
It's so clever. Yeah, it's just it's such a refinement of that sensation of doing jump maps.
Great little video. Go over to Crew and check it out. Support Jesse, and he has an uncut version as well up on Patreon for $10 patrons if you want to watch that. We've uncut versions of all those episodes as well, those interviews if you want to check them out. We're coming in. Got any more? Maybe one more round the wheel if we can manage it, or even if you just want to talk about your favorite level. Frank, you got any?
I mean, I absolutely love CS Office. Like,
me too. I was always Office, especially in Source when they added in the bullet holes into the glass.
Yeah. I love. Well, yeah. I mean, it was. Oh God, I really adore it. Also, a big thing too is just sprays. But like, maybe back in high school, my friends and I would just try to find the most obscene images on the internet and just immediately plaster everything with the most. And just people screaming, "Who the hell sprayed this?"
Yeah, there was a Wild West days for the tags in Counter-Strike where 20% of the population on any map was just a racist teenager from Houston.
A major reason my friends and I, we didn't play Go for the longest time because you couldn't import custom sprays. So we're like, well, why would anyone play this?
Why would I play this
sell them
game?
to you for like $20 or something.
Yeah, I can't post a picture of a butthole on Go. Why play it?
Put Goatsy right in front of the terror and the hostages.
Another one that people would do was there was like transparent sprays where someone would spray like a terrorist crouching, aiming a gun. So you look at the end of the hallway, it looks like so.
Oh, I forgot about that, dude.
Genius! It was so fun.
Forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
The Wild West, man. It wouldn't let you do that, and imagine you could do that in like Overwatch now, competitive Overwatch or something.
Yeah, we need more psychological warfare in video games.
Truly.
Jeremy, any last thoughts on Counter-Strike, the good old days?
No, it's been so long since I thought about this that like if I read a list of them, it would jog my memory. But as I'm Googling for Counter-Strike custom maps, I'm just getting lists of new ones that are still coming. Like one that was published 14 hours ago for 1.6.
I can't remember if this one was a developer-made one for Source, or whether or not it just was a one that was made by the community that was just very good. Although I don't know, I'm talking about CS Compound. It wasn't in 1.6. It was only in Source, and it was I absolutely loved it. It was. It was made by Valve. So
this one's good.
I love that. Yeah, and it's kind of I get why people don't like it. It was a very sniper centric map, and I loved sniping. So I think that was a big part of it. But yeah, I loved Compound. It was like one team started in a sort of a big warehouse, like 2-story warehouse, and then the other ones were in like a garage right outside. So like the minute you spawned, if you walked out, you had to be careful that one of the snipers wasn't already firing you. And it was just kind of like it was a siege almost. Like you had to like break in, like they were right there. And I like that about it. There wasn't the sort of like time to kill thing that you get in a lot of CS maps, which feels good. But as a result, Compound as well was a good one for having open respawns where people just kind of came back in a lot.
My favorite kind of shitty map, like a map that is fun to play but is objectively not one of the better maps, is Aztec.
Oh yeah,
because it has those bridges where you're so exposed and they're so long, and it's like, yeah, there's never been. I'd say 10% of the firefights on a bridge in Aztec are fun, and 90% of them are infuriating. It's just someone blasting a machine gun up at you from off.
There was that one part was just if you were dead to rights if anyone ever caught you in the the water canal part underneath. Like if you accidentally ended up there, like you were like, oh shit.
Sound too.
Yeah, the splash, splash, splash. Yeah, it was a good place to, if you could get out with the hostages down there. Sometimes you could. It was like a sort of a shortcut. Yeah, you're right. It's like it was kind of like the doors in Counter-Strike. There was a couple of like doors in Aztec where like they're gonna come through there, so we're just gonna post up. So you just had to flashbang them. There was no other way in. So yeah, it was a bit.
Yeah, that's like the brilliant thing about designing one of those maps is understanding the choke points and the bottlenecks, so that interesting angles of attack are exposed to each other. So if someone can cover this door, and if anyone walks through, they're dead, that person is then exposed to yet another angle where someone can flank them, and it's kind of the successive rock paper scissors of angles something. And some of the maps are just not.
What I like about some of the early Counter-Strike maps is that they do like. Modern maps are doing a lot of like trying to like make it equal for everyone. And I think if you play Dust, and I always get the two of them confused. Which Dust is the one where that has the sniper lane right through the middle, right, with the big doors. And
that's Dust. That's Dust 2.
So Dust 1 is the one where most of the battles happen in that indoor area.
Dust 1 is the one that has that indoor area in the center, and it has the underpass in the middle.
Yes, and then the other one is Dust. So I guess Dust 1, the one that has the. Okay, they both have whatever.
Yeah, no. Dust 2 is the one that has long A all the way to, if you're on terrorist side, all the way on the right is that long lane, and then when you start right in the middle, people snipe each other through the doors in the center lane.
That's Dust 2. Okay, so Dust 2, I feel like what it had was like it was kind of asymmetrical, where like I thought it was like hard to defuse in that map. Like it was easier at bomb site. I think A is the more open one. B is the one that has like the sort of the one slit door that's just open, and then the sort of tunnel like that. If you got a bomb there, it was hard to defuse. Like it was like a real who is the best shot here. Like, and I kind of like that about those games where now we're into strategy and like figuring out stuff. But I feel like there was if you were just better at shooting and that level, that was what was the difference. You know what I mean?
That's why I could never really get into Valorant or Overwatch. Is like ultimates, like I don't know, they kind of burst the fun. It's like it's just everyone's just waiting for their ultimate and then spam it. Whereas Counter-Strike, it's so intense. Like that's why I love spectating and cheering on friends, or just when it's just one-on-one. Oh, it is the most exciting like competitive gaming. It is so fascinating. Like and when people pull off headshots or clutch or like, oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the purity, I totally agree, because I played a bunch of Valorant, not as much as I played CSGO or 1.6 or Source, but I played a lot of Valorant and really liked it. And there is a way in which the powers of the individual characters essentially are just filling the roles of all the accessory items, like flashbangs and smokes and stuff. But there is an element of it where you see someone and you have to understand which character that is, what moves they potentially have, and then it's adding all of these layers, whereas the purity of just like, yeah, two dudes with guns, and at best there's like a flashbang or a smoke going down. But ultimately it's like, there's one guy in there, he's guarding the bomb, you just got to get in there and find him and shoot better than him. And just the purity of that is like, it's exhilarating.
Yeah, and the whole like the economy made it so, it was almost like baseball where like eco rounds were like innings where you had like bad matchups. You know what I mean? Where you had your like designated, you had your pitcher going out or something,
Dude, where I actually... I don't know.
No. I was just saying, like, because like those ones, it made like an interesting ebb and flow where, like, suddenly, you could be in it. Yeah, if you won a round, eco round that you weren't like expecting it to win, then that was really cool.
My friend Greg and I, who he's sort of the friend I've played Counter-Strike with the most in my life, have a running joke about a Harlem Globetrotters for Counter-Strike, where it's like, a pro team playing against a bunch of kind of like heel amateurs who are not as good, the team who's designated to lose, the Washington Generals to their Harlem Globetrotters. And so they're like trick shotting and the like novelty music is playing while we're just like trying to play an honest game. Like we're doing an econ round and they're like showing up and knifing us. We're like, guys, we're just playing an honest game here. Like you don't need to do this to us.
Run faster with a knife, the words of FPS, dog. Anyway, well, let's call it a pod there. We talked about a bunch of stuff: Signalis, COD, Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. Even got a chance to chat about some Counter-Strike goodness. If you want to hear Jesse talk about Neon White with Ben Esposito, go check out that video. It's all up there. And then we're working on a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff we can't talk about. We're in that phase. We have multiple projects filming this month and next, it looks like. We're just waiting to give the thumbs up so we can talk about them and get them started and all that. We will have an episode on Noclip Crew all about Stunt Derby, which is all about how to set up your Steam page and how to do a trailer for Steam. We talk to some experts about that, and then I try and attempt to do that. There's also been some big updates to the game, so that should be quite fun. We've more episodes of Developer Breakdown. We're working with Jesse to try and get these out monthly from now on, either him hosting or me hosting or one of the other guys hosting, and covering some more games that way. We have our big Tomb Raider Crystal Dynamics documentary coming out as well on Thanksgiving week, so there's bunches of stuff hitting the channel. What's everyone playing? Jeremy, now that you have the rest of your week, now that you've completed Signalis, what are you going to do? Just stare at the moon or...
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna think about life. Yeah, I don't know. I started Silent Hill 3 before I played Signalis, and I like it. So I might continue with that. I'm definitely in a survival horror kick right now. I also started the second Clock Tower game, not the first one, but the 1996 Clock Tower. And it is hilarious. It's a PS1 game, but it is a point and click survival horror game. The antagonist of whom is Scissor Man, and he's this like little green goblin dude.
Run.
And no, you have to run. You have to run and hide. There's no combat. You just have to run and hide. You have to outsmart Scissor Man, and he's like this little green man in a purple overcoat with a giant pair of scissors.
Wow. Clock Tower 2 has a fucking intense box art.
Does
you
it?
need to Google the box art for Clock Tower 2. Clock Tower 2.
Let's
I have never played this game.
Oh wow.
Okay, so no, I'm playing. Wait, is this the one? No, I'm playing Clock Tower. There's two games called Clock Tower. I'm playing the second Clock Tower game, but it's called Clock Tower.
This one, I'm looking at Clock Tower 2, The Struggle Within.
Okay, let me
which
look
you
this
should.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it has two different covers.
Both
and they're
of them
both
are
horrifying.
crazy. You're right. There's one that has the devil head, and there's one that doesn't. And I'm guessing that's because one of them was released in Japan and one of them was released in North America or something.
It is a very like Japanese folklore devil head. Also, look up the cover just look up Clock Tower game.
Is it a different series?
No, they're the
God,
they did Clock Tower.
The Scissor Man. Oh my god,
the Scissor Man. So the genius thing about the 1996 Clock Tower is that there's an original Clock Tower game, which is I think it's a Super Famicom game, and it is a point and click horror game like that with the Scissor Man and everything. But if I'm understanding correctly, I haven't played the first one. The 1996 one, you start as a therapist and you're talking to the woman who survived Scissor Man's attacks as the protagonist in the original game. And so it's kind of like it's like imagine you're starting after Halloween, after the whole the events of the movie are over, and you're like, what was it like to almost be killed by a maniac?
Oh, this is a human entertainment joint. They are the Fire Pro Wrestling people. That's what,
Oh, really?
The original one. Yes, okay, so
cool.
what we have here is, I'm going to assume, is a games that were released in Japan only and then came to America, and we've messed up the names. It's a Final Fantasy scenario, I think. Because the first game is Clock Tower 95, then there's Clock Tower known in Japan as Clock Tower 2, which came out in 1996, which I think is the one you're playing. And then there is Clock Tower 2, The Struggle Within, known in Japan as Clock Tower Ghost Head. And then there is a Clock Tower 3 that came out.
Yeah, that's the famous one in the West.
Yeah. So you're technically playing, I don't know, Clock Tower or Clock Tower 2 in Japan.
I think I'm playing Final Fantasy 4. I'm still trying to figure it out. But Clock Tower is fucking awesome.
Tell us about it next time. Frank, what are you going to play for the rest of the week? You still just third-person knife killing people?
It's funny. Like next week is Sonic Frontiers and God of War, and so I feel like I'm in. I don't want to like start. I finished Ghostwire Tokyo. So I think I'm chilling with Call of Duty. I do want to dip more time into Signalis. I also want to still try Scorn, but next week is Sonic and God of War. I'm very excited.
God, I need to get back to Scorn. Good point. Signalis has kind of taken my Scorn time away.
We gotta build like a reading list of like the essential like Game of the Year contenders. Like I still gotta beat Elden. I want to beat Elden Ring by the end of the year.
I still haven't beaten it either. Yeah. What was just on Ghostwire? Because I never completed it either.
Yeah.
What did you make of it in the end when you completed it?
It's so funny. I don't mean to like if to me I delegate it as like a podcast game where it's like it is so cozy to collect and play the story, whatever. I had fun playing it and relaxing with it. It was very disappointing up front because I thought it was going to be like I loved Evil Within. It was gory. It was a really good survival horror. Ghostwire, it seemed like it's a very like gentle game. It's like it's not a scary game. It's here's these cute like ghosts and you got to help them out and oh no there's some bad ghosts. It's like more like a Halloween. I don't know if it's good for Halloween, but it was different than what I expected. But then once I treated it as like an open world Ubisoft collectible game, it's like this is kind of pleasant running around like just collecting stuff. And then. Yeah, so it kind of missed the mark, but I still liked it, and like I mean I like anything with like Japanese settings and horror and all the cultural stuff, very much like a Yakuza game. But it was all right. It was all right.
There you go. It was all right.
Frank, I'm excited to hear what you're... Sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just... Well, we're on Frank's games. Frank, I'm very excited to hear what you think about Signalis, because your love of the original Silent Hill games is one of the things that inspired me to go and play them this year.
Yeah.
Because you and a couple other people I know are so passionate about them. And I think that this is I think you're going to love Signalis when you get more into
I mean,
it.
even I adore when you go to the save menu, it flashes red.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my
Totally.
God. And then there's even a reason of staff on board the facility are only allowed to have 6 items at any given time. There's little, they kind of reverse engineer and explain why it has the survival horror tropes. Also saving, and if you don't save, it's you will regret.
Yeah, did you see that?
Dude,
the first time that
I thought I fucked up my run.
Freaked me out when that first came up. I was like, whoa,
me too.
geez, all right.
And then at some point I got to sit down and play Resident Evil 8 DLC.
Oh, yeah,
I started
me
it,
too.
but it just wasn't as fast as Call of Duty, and it was God, I can't touch this yet. But it is the Resident Evil 8 DLC. How they set it up is pretty smart, and it is also third person, so it's pretty cool. But I just got to be in the right mood for that in Signalis. But Resident Evil,
Is there a thing where people are adding third person to games because there's a whole generation of people who played Fortnite? Is that what it is? Is that
I
wonder.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Because
It's funny.
Yeah, but it makes sense in a battle royale game because PUBG did that, right? Because you need to see the equipment you have. That's the big part of it.
Yeah.
You don't need. I guess you can play it first.
I will say it is a lot more relaxing playing in third person. When I die in first person Call of Duty, I am angry. I am pissed off. It's who stopped me? When I die in third person Call of Duty, it's funny. Your character's running and then he just drops down. Whatever. In Call of Duty, it's so jaunting. The camera pulls you
That's a
back
good
and
point.
shakes you.
Yeah.
But in third person, it's what? It's like seeing an action figure fall down. So it makes it so much more relaxing to play. And I think because Fortnite's silly, the other thing I'm trying to think of other third person games. It's SOCOM 2 playing Modern Warfare 2. It really is seriously, third person Call of Duty is a game changer. I love it.
That's funny. I never thought about that, but it does make sense. There's probably some terrible, annoying Pavlovian response to running somewhere and then stopping. It must be I can see how that would be frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play some more.
Danny, what are you playing? I'm sorry I cut you off.
What?
I was saying that. What are you playing? Because I cut you
and
off.
then you cut me off
doing
doing
off. I've there's internet talking. There's always a delay.
I need to play more Signalis. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to complete Signalis by next week. Because you're right, God of War is out next week, so I'm going to give that one a whirl. That's a podcast. Thanks all for listening. Thank you very much as we approach episode 100. We will be doing Game of the Year stuff as well, and Patreon exclusive podcasts. So if you want to support our work, then do it, or don't. Just watch our documentaries. Do whatever you want. Maybe we'll shut down one time and you'll be sad about it. But in the meantime, everything will be cool and you'll watch some cool stuff. Man, that got weird. It sounded bitter. I didn't mean to do that. It was supposed to be a joke. Thank you to all the supporters. Thank you to everyone who watches our work. Thank you to my mom. Thanks very much to Counter-Strike. Thanks to the people that made Signalis. Are they German? There's a lot of German in that game. They are
yes,
German.
there's a lot of there's so much untranslated German, and I speak a little bit of German. I was constantly trying to interpret as it went very badly.
How mysterious it was. It was what is going on? This is German. It's freaking me out. It's making me think of the war. All right, that's it. Noclip Podcast 97 over. Thank you very much for hanging out, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.